Oh, hello there. Welcome back, BN viewers. Stoked to have you here for another installment of our review series on Mesopotamia. We are well on our way to our 100 subscriber giveaway, so make sure you subscribe and comment down below in order to be entered for your chance to win an amazing prize. This episode is going to deal with Babylonia, ancient law systems, and the rise and fall of the Assyrian Empire. By the way, I have decided to keep using the term BN viewer to describe those of you who have chosen to subscribe to this channel. It was a joke at first, but honestly, once I saw how embarrassed my grade 7 students were, I just decided to roll with it. So, one thing I inspire to be in this video is incredibly awkward, and I think I'm succeeding in that goal.
Cringy. That's so cringy.
Do 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 Mr. B, yeah. Last video we left off with a brief mention of Hammurabi and the Babylonians, but I realized we missed a couple of things, so let's jump back in time. That was really weird. Let's try it again. Take two. Take three. Let's jump back in time. The Sumerian cities that arose in southern Mesopotamia were impressive to say the least, and they shared some unique features. Each was walled to help protect from flood and invaders, and most had a temple to the gods on top of a man-made, mountain-like structure called a ziggurat. Man-made mountain. Man-made mountain. That's fun to say. Ziggurats were typically made of sandstone and housed a statue of the city's god at the top structure. Priests would be intermediaries between the gods and the people, which meant that they were considered to be super important, because they were the only ones who knew how to keep the gods happy. Over time, however, the priests would lose power as powerful military leaders began to interpret the will of the gods themselves. These kings gradually began to take over from the priests as the ultimate authority in the Sumerian cities, because when it came to interpreting the gods' will, the person with the most swords tended to win out whenever there was a disagreement about what the gods wanted. Sumerian cities were built on barley and farming in general. The wealth of these cities came from growing an abundance of food. This abundance of food could be traded to other people who needed food, and really that's pretty much everyone. We all need to eat. It's a fact. Unfortunately for the Sumerians, the rich, fertile soil of the Delta region hid a dark secret. Deep beneath the mud that was deposited by years of flooding, the soil was salty, and as more and more irrigation was used to water the crops, the salt began to make its way up into the fertile topsoil. Over hundreds of years, the Sumerians began to see their crops yields go down, their wealth become more precarious, and their populations decrease. They were ripe for the picking, and the Akkadians took full advantage. Of course, the Babylonians would eventually take over as the dominant force in this region, and by 1800 BCE, the city of Babylon on the Euphrates would take over as the most dominant city. The Babylonian culture was the result of the dominant Akkadians and Sumerians merging together into one people. Basically, they took what they liked from each society and discarded the rest. In practice, this meant that they adopted most of the Sumerian institutions and culture and carried on in much the same way, except with a better army, more advanced technology, and of course Akkadian replaced Sumerian as the oral and written language of choice. It's a pretty cool language.
Nasiyakuma istu salas sanatim itenritsuma sayam ul inadinam.
Right? Pretty sweet. Around 1700 BCE, an important Babylonian king named Hammurabi comes to power. He seems like a pretty cool guy, and he definitely knew how to rule a city. He built new walls, expanded irrigation projects, and beefed up the army big time. Oh, and he extended Babylonian control over most of Mesopotamia by conquering the upper Tigris-Euphrates Valley. Hammurabi has one of the coolest nicknames around, as his subjects gave him the title of the Great Lawgiver. Actually, that's not the best nickname, no. Google search of cool nicknames. Oh, that's a pretty rad one. Dropkick? Dropkick's pretty good, yeah. Papa Smurf, I like that one, yeah. Papa Smurf. Papa. Big Papi. Either way, the Great Lawgiver codified a set of laws, creating what is regarded as the oldest known written legal system. Influenced by Sumerian legal traditions, this code of laws was applied to all the cities that Babylonians controlled, which meant that people traveling from city to city would understand what behaviors were expected from them. It was the same laws in every city. Hammurabi's law code contained over 280 laws, and they were created with the idea that harsh punishments would keep people from committing crimes. Hammurabi's laws were based on the concept of retribution. Many of you heard about the idea of an eye for an eye, in which a person who did something wrong would have a similar wrong done to them. Except in practice, in Hammurabi's laws, it was more like you get a hand chopped off for punching somebody, or your daughter would get murdered for you murdering somebody else's daughter. Really, it's about the same thing, though. Eye for an eye. That's pretty ruthless, actually. Now I think about it. Let's look at a meme to lighten the mood. Oh, Dwight, you never fail to make me smile. Oh, Dwight. You. And now some quick notes about Hammurabi's law, set to the music of Enya. Who can say where the water goes? That's not Enya. Nope. I don't know who that is, actually. Music. I'm not very good. Babylon would continue to influence the Mesopotamian city. Babylon was able to influence the Mesopotamian civilization for quite a while, despite invasions from groups like the Hittites. However, their power slowly declined, while another group from the hilly north of Mesopotamia was growing in power. The Assyrians are the bad boys of the Mesopotamian Valley. I should probably say bad men and women. I mean, it's 2017, right? Actually, you know what? Come to think of it, Assyria is a male-dominated patriarchal society, so most of the decisions would have been made by bad boys, so I'm going to stand by my statement. The Assyrians are the bad boys of the Mesopotamian Valley, and around 1100 BCE, the Assyrians rose to power. They settled along the Tigris River northwest of Babylonia, with a capital city-state as Assur as their home base. By the way, Assur was the god of war and the patron god of the Assyrians. When you have a god of war as your patron, it's a pretty safe bet that you're not going to be pursuing a policy of international diplomacy and appeasement. No, I just realized that what I said was probably unclear to many of my viewers. So I'm going to explain it in simpler terms. Assyrians were bad to the bone fighters. That's it. They were violent. Yeah. And they conquered all of the Fertile Crescent using iron tools, a gigantic army, and advanced siege weapons. They didn't rule with kindness either, but instead chose to crush with savage cruelty anyone who dared speak up against their rule. Eventually this will lead to their downfall, as several oppressed subject states band together to take down the Assyrian overlords. The Assyrians did create an effective system of imperial administration, though, and their strict governing style helped create an empire that was relatively peaceful. I mean, after all, if you're going to be forced into slavery or required to crush the bones of your father when you're caught rebelling, you might decide that a life of peace is preferable. Quick fact. Assyrians weren't just great warriors. They also built roads, they made the first postal service, and they built a library with thousands of clay tablets on it that have enabled scholars to recreate life in ancient Middle East.
Mr. B, you realize that the roads were built to move Assyrian armies around and that the postal service helped the army to act quickly against rebellions? Oh, and that library. You know that a large number of those tablets were created to record Assyrian victories over their conquered enemies?
Yes, yeah, I do.
Also, did you know that lots of the cities that were conquered by the Assyrians were not happy with them because of their cruelty, and they all joined forces to take them down? And that, in 600 BC, a bunch of them joined forces, capturing and destroying the Assyrian capital of Nineveh, and eventually conquering and splitting up the entire Assyrian Empire.
I literally already said that. I know my business. Like, I'm a professional teacher. I spent years in school earning multiple degrees. I know what I'm doing. Pay attention, students. Come on. Actually, that's it. That's all I have to say on that. I don't have anything else. So, I guess just know that the civilization didn't stop in Mesopotamia with the fall of the Assyrians. The Babylonians will form a nice little empire on their own for a little while, and then the Achaemenid Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great will take over. Really starting one of the greatest empires the world will see for thousands of years. For now, I will remind you that we'll be giving away an awesome prize once we reach 100 subscribers, so don't forget to like, comment, hit the notification bell in order to be entered into our giveaway. I'll leave you with a little quote from Ahikar the Assyrian, Chancellor to Sennacherib and Esarhaddon. I can't pronounce that. Let's try that again. Yeah. I'll leave you with a quote from Ahikar the Assyrian, Chancellor to Sennacherib and Esarhaddon. One more time. I'll leave you with a quote from Ahikar the Assyrian. Keep watch over your mouth, lest it bring you grief. Words for the grade 7s to live by if they wish to avoid hanging out with Mr. Bienvenu at lunchtime. Until next time, folks. Do 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 Mr. B.